Welcome into Extreme Radio, presented by GracePointe Healthcare. Go to GracePointeHealthcare.com, request your appointment online, mention you're from 8-Man Extreme, and you get $20 off your new patient office visit fee. GracePointe Healthcare, modern medicine the old-fashioned way. Spencer Thompson and James Shannon, two-man crew today for this edition of Extreme Radio, and a lot of interesting action that occurred for 8-man football as well as an 11-man football game over the weekend. No Saturday games, all Fridays. There will be a Saturday game this coming weekend, but we'll get to that later.
It's nice to have the multi-game week spread out and have it
is.
all every other week. That way you can take a Saturday or a Thursday night and just kind of chill, relax.
Watch college football
Especially
now.
for y'all. You're right.
For you at least. Also.
Man, it was the best time of the year yesterday. Fox, CBS, NBC, ABC, the Stadium Network. There were like 7 channels that had football on. I don't have ESPN, so
how many did you watch of those networks?
I flipped them back and forth between about 3 of the games until they got ugly. I watched the Colorado-Nebraska till the very end, though.
Hopefully we'll get that at some point for 8-man football. We'll get it to where multiple networks are covering it or multiple channels on YouTube.
Be down with that.
Yeah, so we could flip through. If you flip through on your Tennessee High School football app, you could see the live scores on Friday night, but that's why we're here on Sunday is to recap the scores anyway.
Hey,
so,
by the way, let's keep Isaiah in our prayers. He's got he actually dislocated his shoulder either last night or yesterday, so got some health things going on. That's why he's not here. So definitely keep him in the prayers. He's a massive, massive help. Don't worry though, we should be able to get you that highlight video. It'll still come out this Tuesday, so we'll get it for you.
Yeah, should be able to, but of course making sure that Isaiah is healthy and good to go. First game that we're recapping from the helmet schedule, we always cover the game we broadcast last, so from top to bottom on the helmet schedule except for that top game. Tennessee Heat, they traveled to Antioch to face off for a North battle against Lighthouse Christian School, and Lighthouse got the win 22-18. Close game from what we saw on the film there. Really intense all throughout. James shaking his head over here because he's got some stuff he wants to say about that one. But this kind of shows that, the Tennessee Heat, they're still in the mix in the North. A lot of teams are still in the mix in the North. Southaven, we'll get to them later. But Southaven being the only team that has a slim chance at the bowl. I believe they're officially eliminated from playoff contention now. But with the Tennessee Heat and Lighthouse Christian, we knew it was going to be a close game by far. We knew for an intense battle of the North, kind of shaping who's going to be the number 2 seed in the playoffs. That's still being shaped as of now. But Lighthouse managing to get the win by 4 at home.
Yeah, and you could really tell the difference that Ricky McDowell brought to Lighthouse. Of course, his first game back from a 2-game suspension, a team-imposed suspension, not anybody else. But you could tell he was back. I've been on the Tennessee Heat train for a long time, and I think they're a good ball team. They played good ball teams. Of course, they ran into Lancaster Christian. They ran into the Tennessee Heat. Took losses there. They ran into Lighthouse. I was shaking my head. I'm so frustrated because I've watched the game, and just some horrible. And we'll have to talk to Ronnie Perkins and find out what happened. Just horrible officiating at the end. What happened was Lighthouse scored. Ricky McDowell scored the touchdown and the 2-point to make it a 22-18 ball game, and then the Heat got down to inside the 5-yard line. I thought there was a touchdown pass for a score. I thought there was a touchdown pass. They decided to take it away and say they didn't make it. They put them right on the goal line. Well, they come up to the line, and the official blows the whistle to stop the play, but the clock continues to run, and they didn't add more time to the clock. So after that, there should have been about 20 seconds. There was only time for one more play after I don't remember if they ran or it was an incomplete pass. Just terrible officiating and clock management. It's so frustrating. The Heat should have won that ball game, but just a close back and forth game. Preston Sloan had a 60-yard interception return for a touchdown. Of course, that was one of the games that got affected by the lightning delay that was hitting Middle Tennessee, hitting almost everybody in Middle Tennessee. But just a great ball game, classic ball game. Kind of wish we could have been there, but, we thought we had a good ball game on our hands. We'll talk about that in a second. But, yeah, just a close ball game and a big win for Lighthouse Christian. You have to wonder if they have Ricky McDowell and they don't start a freshman quarterback or sophomore, whoever they had. If they have Ricky McDowell, do they beat Sacred Heart and now be undefeated in the North and solidify themselves for that number 2 seed. Now with that loss to Sacred Heart and Sacred Heart beating South Haven, it's so muddled for that 2 and 3 seed. But like you said, we do know for sure one team that more than likely will not make the postseason.
Yeah, unfortunately, South Haven, believe, at least as of now, because they have played against Sacred Heart and Bowling Green and have lost, judging by the way the rest of the league is going, it's likely that they are fighting for a bowl slot throughout the rest of the year. But that may, as you guessed, is that with that game, and obviously we'll get to it later, as you guessed, whoever will lose that game will be eliminated from the postseason. So we'll see how that plays out later on. But again, a great victory for Lighthouse. Hopefully the officials from that game will get some clarity and looking back at the film and be able to get closer to perfection on their craft later. And
again, that's not downing Ronnie Perkins. He's a fantastic coordinator. All of his crews, I would say probably 90 to 95% of the time get the calls right. But there's some times that they just get a little lost. The game gets out of hand, and they don't stay on top of it. I thought I saw a couple times in the game where it might have gotten out of hand between the players and the officials. There's a fine line between letting them play and taking control of the game. I think they did a good job balancing that line. But then when it came to clock management and time management and running that side of it, they did not do well. So it's very frustrating. But like you said, not taking anything away from Lighthouse, they still win. If you're the Heat, guess what? Don't put yourself in a situation where it comes down to the end of the game and you're trying to score with time running out. So, and again, much love to the Heat too. It's crazy.
Heat falls to 1-2 in the North, and Lighthouse goes to 1-1 in the North, going into Week 6. The big argument of who is going to get the number one seed in the North, one who is likely set in the pathway for that Christian Community. They got a big win, 59-22 against Franklin Classical School. The Knights on their homecoming game got beaten 59-22. Isaiah and Wayne went to that homecoming game, and we managed to get scoring updates from them and such, but it was just basically what we expected from Christian Community. The Knights are having a rebuilding year, and Christian Community just doing what they are expected to do, what we've seen them do what we have seen them do so far in the season is just perfect their craft, their coaching staff leading them to victory, and they stay undefeated.
I've at times been critical of different parts of the Colts, whether it be their offensive line, Rowley, their defense. I'm talking about Nathaniel Rowley, the quarterback. I've been critical of different parts of them. There's nothing you can be critical about these numbers for Rowley. 10 of 10, 10 out of 10, 226 yards and 5 touchdowns, no interceptions. You can't be critical of those kind of numbers. Their running game was crazy. He threw touchdowns to, I want to say, 4 different receivers. I mean, he had a fantastic game. Of course, like you said, Classical's rebuilding. They're struggling. That's to be. I don't know how you get. I don't know how, but it's frustrating. You got to think it's frustrating to get the best team in the league to come in for your homecoming and beat you. But a great game for Josh Salstron. Got his first start at quarterback, replacing Sam Hubbard, I think was the quarterback. So, he tried to step up and make some stuff happen, and a great try from him. I mean, obviously they put up 22 points. There at the end of the game, had a kickoff return. No, wait, where was that? No, wasn't a kickoff return. Anyways, they had a couple great plays, another lightning delay game, but just a good job. And if you're the Classical, you kind of know what you're getting yourself into. It hurt them definitely in terms of postseason because it's another loss. They're now 0-4. But Christian Community moving to 4-0, it's another solid outing. And it's more of a case of Christian Community being really, really good. But a big win for the Colts and Coach Flanders.
Now, with FCS, it doesn't affect them necessarily for the postseason because they're 0-2 in the South, that game being an interdivision game. But it does affect, it can have an effect on the team's morale depending on how they are going forward. But Christian Community at 4-0 right now, 2-0 in the North. Riverside Christian Academy, they hosted Lancaster Christian Academy in a tight ball game that was tight at first, but then ended 52-20. The Knights of Lancaster get it done against the Knights of Riverside in Fayetteville, and we mentioned it last week. Last week and the week prior, after that helmet-to-helmet collision we saw in the Thursday night game against the Tennessee Heat, it was really good to see Deuce Bragg back in the game at the quarterback position, and just stars all across the Lancaster squad. I can't wait to see what Lancaster does against the Webb School. I can't wait to see how that game is, because it's likely going to be for who is the number 1 seed in the South.
That game's going to be hype. And for Lancaster, they had some dudes show up. Matthew Bowden, who was our Week 2 Player of the Week, he had 23 carries, 264 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then he added another 4 catches for 91 yards. So he absolutely is showing up. And another thing for Lancaster, it's you would think at this point the teams would be able to say, okay, they've played 3 games, we kind of know how they're gonna play, we know what they're gonna do. And they just keep I don't want to say surprising, because you know what they're going to do, but Lancaster saying, here's what we're going to do, go ahead and try to stop us. Guess what? We're going to play an 8th grade, we're going to start an 8th grade quarterback, go ahead and try to stop us. And nobody has. Deuce Bragg Friday night, 14 of 29, 402 yards, 2 touchdowns. He did throw an interception, had a rushing touchdown. Those are senior numbers at 8th grade, so just a crazy, crazy game. Riverside is struggling. The game got a little chippy. You had an ejection for Riverside and 2 for Lancaster. They are all being appealed, so we'll find out the results of that. And obviously, you want to try to get all those kids back. I'm not sure who it was for Lancaster. Not really worried about it. Riverside had a sophomore get ejected, and so they're gonna, like I said, they're gonna appeal it, and you have an appealing process for a reason. So they're gonna put it through the proper channels and find out if they can get those players back, because they both have big games coming up on Friday night.
Now, I wouldn't say Riverside is struggling, because they're 2-2. They're 2-2. They're 2-1 in the South. Now, they do have a big game against hosting Webb this coming week, but I wouldn't say they're struggling, because they're at a 500 record.
Yeah, I mean, and again, they lost to 2 teams who are currently undefeated, and they've beat 2 teams who are winless. So they're kind of in that middle category of they're not bad, but I don't think they're at elite level yet. Will they be elite in the next couple of years? Yes, but they're not at that elite level yet. And they're at right now, they're on pace to make, if the postseason started today, they'll be in the MTAC Bowl. So we'll have to see what happens in terms of who they can. They got Webb coming up. They've got some manageable games. They got FCA. They've got class. They've already played classical, but they got FCA coming up. They got Bowling Green. So they've got some winnable games. They've got the Heat coming up. So they've got some winnable games, but we'll have to see how that youth on the team can produce and get them to the hopefully get them to the postseason. I mean, they've already gotten more wins than they did last year, and they're not far away from their win total for 2016 either.
So Riverside moves to 2-2. Lancaster stays undefeated on the season at 3-0 as they go into their game next week. We'll mention a little bit here about the 11-man game that the Webb School had against Middle Tennessee Christian School. It ended in a score of 40-13. Middle Tennessee Christian School beating Webb. So we don't really count it on their overall season record, because it's more of an exhibition
game. It's like an exhibition, yeah.
Yeah, since they're primarily playing 8-man football, but. To put up 13 points, because what we saw with the score in the beginning was that Webb had the lead, I believe, 13-6
at halftime. 13-8 at halftime.
They had 13-8, so they were leading at halftime. So they've at least proven for one half they can go to 11-man football. But in terms of finishing in the second half, there's still some work to be done.
Yeah, it's just a matter of depth. I want to see who scored their touchdown. Didn't say who scored their touchdown or both of their touchdowns, but just. You gotta love the Webb School hanging in there. Like I said, I think in terms of depth, they don't have it yet to go there. But you cannot fault a team for trying and wanting to take a shot and see what happens. See if you can go to the next level. You can't fault a team for wanting to do that. So, a cool setup for the web school. You got to wonder, does it affect their preparation for next week? Having to switch from 11 to 8 or from 8 to 11 and back. But we'll see what happens. I mean, they could have gone and played Sacred Heart, or they could have gone and played. Who's the other team that had a bye? It was just Sacred Heart, so they could have played Sacred Heart, but they chose to play the 11-man game. So we'll see what happens from that. It's always interesting to see how a team rebounds from taking a loss like that.
And the web school does travel down to Riverside next week for a battle in the South. One game I forgot to mention here. It was on a Thursday. The Tennessee School for the Deaf. They travel to South Carolina. I believe that's the South Carolina School for the Deaf and Blind. So they managed to get that victory there. Trying to see. Don't have the score pulled up here.
The Tennessee School for the Deaf score. It was 58-22.
Okay, so there was
some video game numbers from DJ Cross for the Vikings though. 13 carries, 213 yards, 5 touchdowns. So he showed up. They of course, the Vikings didn't have football last year, and they I don't know how many guys they actually had translate from 2016, but make the drive down to Spartanburg, pick up the win. That's how you kick off not playing ball since October of 2016. So great job, and again, just great job supporting Tennessee, representing Tennessee.
Yep, and they host the same school in Knoxville this coming Thursday for a rematch of that Thursday game. And only 2 more games for us to cover. Franklin Christian Academy traveled down to St. Andrews Sewanee for a 4 p.m. Matinee game, and they got their first win of the season, 30-16, after FCA taking one loss down in the South. They're 1-1 right now in the South, and unfortunately had 2 losses. Actually, make that 2 losses in the North. They lost to Bowling Green, lost to Lighthouse, but they managed to get at least their first win of the season and first win in the South. So good motivational factor for FCA to do that, traveling down to Sewanee.
Second year in a row rather, that I had Sewanee picked, or at least Sewanee was the favorite. I had them, like I said, picked. Had a close game with Riverside, and I thought that Sewanee would come out. I liked what they had, but so far just a tough go at it. It was only 16-6 at halftime, but FCA pulled ahead and picked up the win, a big win for those guys, and that's just a massive boost for your morale. I heard John Buchanan. I haven't watched the film from it yet, but I heard John Buchanan had a really good night. I heard he showed up, and it's cool. It's good to see them pick up the first game. They kind of distance themselves a little bit from Classical, picking up a win over them, and picking up a win in the South. So if they can win in 2 weeks, that'll be big in terms of trying to get them, because again, they looked like a terrible team at 0-3, but they only had 1 MTAC South loss. So that's the crazy thing about this is, you can lose both your North games and still be in contention for a postseason spot.
Yeah, so FCA, like you said, a big morale booster to get their first win of the season. They're definitely going to need it facing their hosting the Christian Community Colts next week. And Sewanee will host Bowling Green this Saturday for a matinee. And the final game, which was our extreme game of the week, which was the Bowling Green Christian Academy Warriors, they moved to 2-0 on their North Division record. 1-1. They lost to the Heat, took a bye week, and took the victory 48-0 over the defending MTAC champion South Haven Christian School Patriots. And we did not expect this was the way it was going to go down. We thought there would be more of a tough battle, and like we said going into the game, it's basically a fight to try and keep your playoff hopes alive. South Haven still has a feasible chance, but it's not that they control their own destiny. They can control their own destiny for the bowl slot, but in terms of the playoffs, they don't control their own destiny, so it's much more difficult for them to get into the MTAC semis. But for Bowling Green, this kind of gives them more of a chance to stay in the running for the semis with that win in the North staying at 1-1. But they've got a tough battle ahead of them. Both teams have tough battles ahead of them throughout the rest of the season. But why is it that Bowling Green blew out South Haven, James?
Uh, I would say one word, but it's two names that make up one name. Gage Holman. He showed up. He had a fantastic night for the Warriors. 6 carries, 128 yards, 3 touchdowns. Added 3 catches for 95 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he was responsible for 5 touchdowns. Just a phenomenal night. John Stock, 11 tackles, I think. Just a crazy game from the Warriors. South Haven, they're missing Cole Laird. They're missing Manuel Dang, who, didn't have a great game against Webb, but he had 22 carries, 97 yards, and a touchdown against Sacred Heart. Frankie Gagliano had 21 carries, 177 yards against Sacred Heart. He was the primary back on Friday night, and it kills me about the offensive line because they've got a couple seniors and a big, strong, I think he's a junior, Covington. And I would expect their line to be a lot better than it is. But Bowling Green, man, Cameron B., John Stock, those guys, Ben Thomas was in there, I think, and they're just absolutely dominating. They dominated South Haven just right off the bat. I think it was like 3 minutes in, and Bowling Green already had a touchdown. They scored. Gage Holman scored, I want to say 3 touchdowns in 4 minutes. I mean, just crazy numbers, and they absolutely showed up. I'd say they showed up. They were at home, so of course they showed up. But just a huge win for them, and a big congrats to them. Best start that they've had in their program career. I know Don Brown moved to a positive record now. He's 12-11, so huge congrats to him, and a huge MTAC North win. I know that they had a loss to the Heat, but that's a big win to get them even in terms of record for the North. And again, if the playoffs started right now, it's crazy between them and Sacred Heart because Sacred Heart is 2-1 overall and in the North. Bowling Green is 3-1, so they're game up on them overall. But in terms of division, they're 1-1, and Sacred Heart's 2-1. So it's crazy. Which one do you put 2 and 3? But as if the postseason started right now, Bowling Green would either be in the bowl game or they'd be headed to Webb or Lancaster, one of the two. So it's crazy. But and South Haven, I don't know if it gets much better for them. This might just be a rebuilding year. They've got inexperience. They've got the injury bug hitting them again. But you've got the Heat coming up. They've got a bye week, I think. No,
South Haven does.
Yeah,
have
they have a bye
week
week this next week. So they got a bye week this next week, and then they play the Heat and CCS with a bye after that. And it's going to be tough for them. I mean, the best game we may see from them the rest of the year is the game against Franklin Christian later on. I mean, I don't see them hanging in there with Christian Community or Lighthouse. They might hang in there with the Heat, but look what the Heat beat Bowling Green, and the Bowling Green shut out South Haven. So I don't know how they hang with them, but it's crazy how the season's shaping up, but it's shaping up to be a great year. Still 3 undefeated teams, and Christian Community doesn't play Webb or Lancaster, so Christian Community hypothetically could go unbeaten again in the regular season, as could Webb or Lancaster, whoever wins their matchup. Barring an upset. So just a crazy situation.
Now, before we move on to our interview with that game on South Haven Bowling Green, the one thing that I really admired, full disclosure, I respect all the coaches around the league. I don't have a problem with any of them. Don't think none of us have a problem with any of the coaches in the league. But one of the things I really admired, and I even talked to him after the game about this, Coach Zimmerman of South Haven, even though they were being blown out, even though they were well down in the first half, mercy rules started running and did not score at all in the second half, he was still encouraging his guys. Him and the rest of the coaching staff were still encouraging their guys, taking it seriously as if they were going back to try and win the game and such. He was encouraging his guys, keeping them motivated, keeping them going and such. The amount of respect, I have a more elevated respect for Coach Zimmerman after that because, we talked about how he changed the mentality of South Haven from 2016 to 2017. He's still keeping that high mentality up. Doesn't matter if you're down 48-0 or if we're tied right now about to go into overtime. You keep the same attitude in the game. You keep the same attitude whether you're losing or winning. You keep motivated there, and just high respect for Zimmerman after that.
Absolutely, and I'm interested. I'd be interested to find out which one is harder. Coaching a team that went undefeated or winless the year before to get them to where they can win a championship, or coming off a championship and having a season where you have yet to win a game. But for all the things that all the I'm trying to figure out how to say how to word this for all the back and forth that I've had with South Haven. I have a massive amount of respect for Coach Zimmerman. I have no fault with him at all. The only thing I brought up was going to the Titans game, and even then, that could have been out of his hands. So that could have been something he couldn't control. He's just focusing on coaching and trying to win the game. So nothing but mad respect for Coach Z, and I've seen him do nothing but be professional. So and again, it might be a rebuilding year, but I think that team will have the added. They were singing "Victory in Jesus" after the game, so they have the attitude. They're not getting the attitude of, "Hey, we're completely knocked out." They're going to go into each game individually and focus on each team. And if they lose, as soon as the game's over, hits 0 and you shake hands, you move on to the next game. And it's the same thing with a win. But I see them doing that. So just a huge, lot of respect for Coach Z.
So the Patriots go into a bye week for next week before facing the Heat on the 21st, and Bowling Green on Saturday, traveling down to Suwanee. Speaking of Bowling Green, it's always a pleasure to have coaches on here to give us insight around the league and to get their opinions on different things. We have with us today. We have Coach Don Brown of the victorious, the right now 3-1. Bowling Green Christian Academy Warriors. Now, Coach, I know that it's been pouring down here in Franklin. It's been rain all across Middle Tennessee. Has the rainstorm hit up in Bowling Green as of yet?
Yeah. Hey, good afternoon, guys. Yeah, it's pretty wet here too.
Yeah. The rain is hitting pretty hard all across the southern hemisphere of the United States. So just rainy, and hopefully it'll dry up for this weekend's football games. So, Coach, let me ask you this: this is the third year of Bowling Green's program. Your third year as a head coach. We obviously mentioned you have the positive record now of 12-11, but how does it feel as a team to have your best start in your team's history at 3-1 over the last 3 years? How does it feel to come from 3 years ago starting your program and now having a positive record and still in contention for the playoffs?
Well, I mean, it feels pretty good. And finish, before I finish that question for you, I would like to play on a little bit of playoff of your discussion on Coach Zimmerman. At the end of the game, when we're circled up at plasmas of the significant improvement.
Retry
Coach Zimmer,
a classy act, and I would like to give him props.
Yeah, we're having a little bit of technical issues on Coach Brown's side. We'll try to get reconnected in and see if we can get his connection back up and running here. Coach, try disconnecting from the server and reconnecting because it may just be a temporary connection issue. Just getting a little bit of.
Can you hear me now?
It's we can hear you. It's just sounding really kind of robotic and slow. So I think you may just need to disconnect from the server and reconnect. Yeah, so Coach Brown will probably get him up in just a moment. And part of the conversation we picked up from him is he's picking up from where we left off about that conversation with Coach Zimmerman. So looking forward to see what he has to get his input as well. With
mad respect for them, mad respect for them too.
Oh, yeah.
I'll tell you, in terms of now Thursday night, something I was even more so than watching the Atlanta Philly game, which I only had one player in terms of fantasy, but I was looking forward to watching the game live. I know they've broadcasted their games before. They weren't able to do it this last Thursday, but I believe they are doing it this Thursday. So we'll get the link sent out to y'all so y'all can watch some great football and hopefully Vikings pick up another win. But I did want to throw that out there because we're not the only people who broadcast their games. Tennessee School for the Deaf does a great job. So
yeah, they do their own broadcast with their website. I think they use the Cube.
I think they used the cube a couple years ago, and we actually we used the cube, but then we did the play-by-play and color commentary for them. So nice little collab there. But I hope maybe we can do it again this year.
Yeah, I think we got Coach Brown back. Let's see. Try again, Coach.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Okay, so great that we got that up and running. So, Coach, you were saying we picked up the part of it felt great, and you were picking up off of our discussion about Coach Zimmerman.
Yeah, he just was he said a lot of classy things, and he clapped and congratulated our team after the game, and it was a very classy thing for him to do. So they have a well-run team there. They should be proud of the way they acted and the way they played the game for sure.
Yeah, and we're excited to see how both of your teams go through the rest of the season, especially South Haven as they have their bye week before playing the Heat. Now, let me ask you this: we look at your schedule, 4 home games in a row. You travel to Suwannee on Saturday. Then the following week, you travel to Christian Community. Then you host Lighthouse, bye week, host Sacred Heart, host Riverside. How in the world did you manage to work out only a 2 road game schedule this year?
So when we went to the scheduling meeting, I brought a lot of money with me.
Was it money or was it donuts, Coach?
Yeah, well, busted. So, we had a lot of away games last year, and so we knew this year's schedule was going to set up pretty well. However, when we actually met with the coaches and started looking at specific dates, the teams that worked out, a lot of the teams we played were that we're playing this year. We didn't play last year, but we played them the year prior, and we played them away. So it was their turn to come to us. So that worked out pretty nice. And in Sacred Heart, we were willing to go to Sacred Heart this year, and then they came back to us and offered for them to come to us this year. So obviously we took them up on that, and we'll plan on going to them next year if the schedule allows for sure. So we were very fortunate. I remember a couple years ago where Lighthouse, I think they had a schedule like ours.
Yeah, we've seen several different teams that they either have a mixture of away or home games, or it's 1 year you're on the road a bunch, and the following year you're at home a bunch.
Classical was like that last year.
Yeah, Classical had that last year where they had very few home games. So it does work out pretty well for you guys as well as for any other teams that have a majority of home games. Now, let me ask you this, Coach. Obviously, the names we called a huge amount on Friday night were Riley Davis, Gage Holman, Tanner Brown, and we had a little bit of John Stock in there as well. Such big name players that are upper high school. They're getting around junior, senior years. They're going to be graduated within the next few years. So, which players do you have now that are kind of sophomores, freshmen, rising stars in Bowling Green Christian Academy? Which players do you expect to step up to that level of Holman, Davis, Brown, Stock?
Boy, I hate to tell their names because I'm afraid I'll miss somebody, but we certainly have several younger kids that are making great strides. Our backup quarterback, David Crow, is going to be an excellent quarterback. He's already an excellent backup. We have some other guys. Levi Anthony is a kid that doesn't mind hitting somebody, and there's Logan Argel, who's growing into his body and is going to be a force on the road. We have some other kids that are just really getting after it. Obviously, Cameron B has already been a big part of our program this year and has really stepped up. That first game, he really made some plays that showed he's ready to go. We got Chaz Brazel, who's playing receiver for us this year. He was running back for us, and so there's several, and I'm apologize to the guys.
Yeah, I'm sure that. Hey, the good news is when you say stuff like that that on an interview and such, it just means if they listen back, that means they need to step it up so that you can mention them in the future. So
There you go.
that's the good thing from that. Um, I did want to ask you, since you guys have a whole bunch of home games, I wanted to ask how it is with working with Western Kentucky University, because that's where you guys host your home games at currently. So obviously, they have they're pretty big on football as well with the Trailblazers on their football program and such. But
the Hilltoppers.
yeah, the Hilltoppers, that's right. I'm thinking the basketball team in MTAC. But how great has it been to work with WKU for having the flexibility to host your games there and such?
Oh, they've been a huge blessing to us. The very first year of our program in 2015, we played on a grassy field at a local Catholic church, and it was rarely mowed. We didn't have lines, and we were able to play our games at Western Kentucky. But that next year, we went to them and said, what can we do to practice here as well? And so they really do roll out the red carpet for us. They're glad to have the excitement of high school football on their field. Obviously, we have the lights and the scoreboard and concessions. So the facility is really wonderful. When we show up to practice, they have these student assistants that they take their John Deere Gator and they bring all our stuff out for us. And at the end, they clean it up for us. It's really a fantastic thing that they have done for us. So we're really appreciative of all they do for us.
Yeah, we appreciate the fields are really nice there and such. It's just we hope that eventually they may build a press box on that far side of the outfield. Maybe, just maybe, they'll build one, but not crossing our fingers on that one. But it's fine to operate from the back of a truck and such. It gives us some more perspective.
Well, I noticed it's their rugby field too, there. So at some point they're going to want to broadcast rugby, and then there you go.
Yeah, we'll see if they do that. Now, I did want to ask you, so we mentioned it's the third year of your football program, and it's, kind of
fourth year.
Yeah, sorry, that's right, fourth year. You're going into your fourth year of football. How much has football, helped to grow the school, and how much of a positive force has it been for not just the players and the students and such, but how great has it been just as an option that is offered with students who go to Bowling Green Christian Academy?
It's been a good thing. There have been several of the players that went to Bowling Green Christian Academy because of the football program. Our co-op with the homeschool organization has been just as strong, if not stronger. Last year, I think we had more BGCA students, and this year, by far, we have more homeschool students. But, I think it elevates the offerings at the school, and it certainly is a good thing for the school.
Yeah, and it was the same thing that we said with the Madisonville Defenders as well when they had their program for 2 years, to give kids the opportunity to play football without having to go to a public school, without having to go under an umbrella homeschool program, for them to have that option, or if the school they go to doesn't have a football program. It's always great to give kids that opportunity to play football in their schools and to give them that chance there. So last question for you, Coach. You guys have a game on the road this Saturday at 4 o'clock in the afternoon against the St. Andrew Swanee Mountain Lions. You guys played each other for the first time last year.
It's like a college kickoff.
Yeah, it's kind of like a college kickoff. You're right, James. So what is the message you're giving to your players for your matinee game on the road this Saturday?
The message is the same message that we give them every week, is that we need to go out there and take it from them. We need to play our game, play good fundamental football. And it all starts with blocking and tackling. And so that's always the case. And so that's what we'll preach on Saturday as well.
All right. Well, best of luck to you guys against John Hargis and the St. Andrew Swanee Mountain Lions on Saturday, Coach. We really appreciate you coming on the show.
Okay, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Coach.
So that was Coach Don Brown of the Bowling Green Christian Academy Warriors, and we're proud to have him on the show to get his interview prior to his game on Saturday. All right, everybody, it's time for Skip the Sensitivity. I think we have a little bit of time for you to go over stuff. Unless, do you want to go straight into previewing the games, James?
Yeah, let's field some questions.
All right, let's see. You know, this is time for one of those segments of improv questions where I didn't pre-plan these. So let's first go with, obviously you talked about the referee rulings with the officiating having some issues there. Do you think with when we're broadcasting the games, do you think we should give the option for instant replay?
To who, the officials?
Yeah.
Oh.
Instant replay, maybe give the coaches an option to challenge.
Yeah, but I don't know. How good of a look you'd be able to get sometimes. Like whenever you're watching a game on TV and you see the instant replay, they have like 20 angles. We have one angle, and it might be from the back of a pickup truck, and the play is on the opposite corner of the field. So really, would it help? I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to opening it up, but then again. And of course, you know, in that case, it would make it to where coaches want to have us come out to their games because then they're like, hey, I could challenge it here. Of course, they could go back to their film guy and have him replay it. But anyways, yeah, I mean, they could. I don't see it happening. You know, it's just it's something where, you know, again, officials are humans. They're going to make mistakes. You can't help it, but you can't be making bad mistakes. And in terms of like the clock situation Friday night, at the Heat Lighthouse game. That's something you don't need to be able to. You don't need to review that. You just need to be able to do your job and do a good job of keeping track of the clock. That way, you're not messing over the players from one school.
So next question. Obviously, this Saturday a rematch from last year's fiasco, as I'll call it, because of our camera angle having that.
That's why you asked about the replay, didn't you?
That's part of why I asked about
did.
it. Yeah, because think about it. You know, last year Swanee managed to win the game and go on to have I believe just maybe a 1 or 2 loss season last year. But they lost their opening game against the Bowling Green Christian Academy Warriors in Bowling Green, and it was mostly due to that forward lateral that we saw on the edge. At least from our camera angle, it was a forward lateral. The referees ruled it a complete pass. So what do you think the true messages both coaches are giving to their players going into this game, since it's a rematch of what happened last year?
Yeah, if you're Swanee, you know, and this can kind of play into our previews. A great segue. We can just go ahead and go into the previews.
I don't like segues. I fell off one once.
You're also against those scooters they have going around town, aren't you?
Which scooters?
The little scooters that the whole fight has been about. Like, should you have the scooters? Are they on the road or the sidewalk?
Oh, mopeds?
Whatever they're called.
No,
not a moped. Like a legit. It's like a motorized scooter, like a motorized razor scooter, and like you can rent them out. You haven't seen it, man?
No, I haven't seen it.
They must not have come to Franklin yet. They're all over in Nashville.
Nah, the only recent news that I've seen is about some rappers passing away from drug overdoses and some stuff like that. May they rest in peace, but that's what's dominated the news.
Anyways, so if you're Coach Hargis, you know you took a tough loss on Friday to FCA. You could say maybe one they shouldn't have taken, but you know we're not here to judge. You know you definitely want to get back on the board, and you've got to pick up the win here. If you're looking at Bowling Green, mad props to them on the 3-1 start. But you look at who they've beaten. You know they beat FCA, who just picked up their first win against Swanee. So if you look in terms of flow chart, Bowling Green should beat Swanee. But that aside, Bowling Green beat FCA, they beat FCS, and they beat South Haven, who all have one win between them. So if you're Swanee, you're saying, hey, look, they have a history of beating teams like us, but, you know, they had a tough game with Franklin Christian. South Haven, they just were able to jump out on top. You know, Swanee's got guys like Gabe Stevens, who just came back up to the team. Wasn't going to play this year and ended up coming back. Jalen Tillman has to show up. He has to be there. He's got to be a dominant force on that line. Bowling Green's line was able to do their job Friday night. But, you know, if Jalen Tillman can be the player we know he can be, he's definitely going to be able to take off and take control of the game. The only thing I worry about is, you know, Swanee, they rely on their freshman quarterbacks. They're running the veer. They try to get outside and run the ball. Bowling Green is solid on defense. You're not going to run the ball to the outside John Stock can get out there, Riley Davis can get out there, Gage Holman, Tanner Brown, whoever can get out to the outside. And then if you're trying to go up the middle, you got Cam B. John Stock still patrols the middle. He's fast enough. He can gum up your middle, and then if you bounce it outside, he's going to bounce right out with you. So he's going to take care of that. Ben Thomas can show up. So, it's going to be a tough go for Swanee, but it's a winnable ball game. And if you're Bowling Green, you want the win because of the overall. But keep in mind, everyone, if Bowling Green picks up the win, yeah, they're 4-1, but that's still an MTAC South win. So they're still only 1-1 in the South, so or in the North rather. So they've still got some tough games coming up with CCS. They got a tough game coming up with Lighthouse, and then a tough game coming up with Sacred Heart. So we'll have to see how that goes.
All right, so that was Skip the Sensitivity with James Shannon. It's time to get into our game predictions. Now, Isaiah did text me his predictions, and
Okay.
I'll be reading them off for him.
Okay.
So remember,
I was actually going to text him about it, and I was like, I'll leave him alone.
yeah.
He's healing.
Top to bottom on the helmet schedule, everybody. We'll start with Bowling Green Christian Academy at St. Andrew Swanee Mountain Lions. According to Isaiah, he says Bowling Green over Swanee by a large margin. That's what he
Okay.
says there. So Isaiah has Bowling Green. What do you got, James?
I've actually got Bowling Green pick 2 for all those reasons I just gave. I think Bowling Green is gonna pick up the win. There's not many teams that I'm gonna say that that they're. No, hold on a second. Hold on, let me reread this. Okay, let me correct that. I've got Swanee picked. Just so that everyone knows. Just so that everyone knows, I made preseason predictions, and I'm sticking with my preseason predictions no matter what happens. So I am picking Swanee for the upset at home. I think Bowling Green is going to be completely out of their element. This is a Saturday afternoon at a 4 p.m. See, I can argue either side. This is a Saturday afternoon, 4 p.m. game. Bowling Green's going to be kind of they're going to have to drive all the way to Swanee. So an hour to Nashville, 2 hours or so, 3-hour trip. They're going to be off their rhythm. Swanee, they're at home. They're set. They're ready to go. I got the Mountain Lions picked on this one now that I'm reading this correctly. I got the Mountain Lions picked on this one, so I'm going to pick Swanee.
So you got Swan.
But it's not going to be it's going to be a close game.
So it will be a close game according to James, and it's going to be a huge blowout according to Isaiah. So two different sides of the spectrum on that one. So South Haven, they have their bye week this week, and then the Tennessee Heat on looks like Friday night. Usually they host their games on Saturday night, but I guess it worked out with their host.
I think Mount Juliet Christian is away.
They're away that week. So the Tennessee Heat, they host the Sacred Heart of Jesus High School Knights, and my goodness, that's going to be an interesting
I'm
game.
hyped. I'm going to be there.
That is, yeah, you will be there. We'll be somewhere else for the broadcast.
Hey, y'all are going to be a good game that we'll get to in a second.
Yeah, which we just leaked to, even though that'll be.
We didn't leak what game it is. We're just going to say it's going to be a good game.
You told them we aren't going to be at that game. At least you will. But Tennessee Heat, Sacred Heart. So Isaiah is predicting that Sacred Heart, the Heat, is going to have a close win over Sacred Heart. He's predicting it's going to be a close game for them in Mount Juliet. I have a feeling James is on the Heat train still.
We have to address something. It's Mount Juliet, not Mount Juliet.
Mount Juliet.
Mount Juliet.
Juliet.
Emphasis on the Jew, not the et. It's like my wife last night. We're debating the word caramel. For me, it's caramel. For her, it's caramel.
Well,
there's one right.
It depends on where you were raised.
There's one right way of saying it, and it's my way.
Well, so is that goes for your predictions as well? There's only one right way to predict it, and that's James's way?
Right.
Exactly.
That's why I'm 10-6 against Jonathan Thompson for Tennessee 8-man. Let's see. Tennessee 8-man update, if I can get the name right. Go check that out Tuesday nights, by the way.
Mm-hmm. So,
good stuff.
Sacred Heart Heat.
I've got the Heat picked. I am reading it right this time. I got the Heat picked. I'm on the Heat bandwagon. Mm-hmm. I like Sacred Heart. They're coming off the bye. They're going to be pumped up. But, again, it's another travel game for Sacred Heart. They did well against Lighthouse. But I think the Heat are going to have what it needs. They're going to have what they need to do. They're going to know what they need to do, and they're going to do it. They're going to pick up the win, and Sacred Heart will suffer their first actual in-game loss overall and in the division.
All right, so both of you guys got the Tennessee Heat on that one, taking the win close at home. All right, next game on the helmet schedule, the Lighthouse Christian School Lions traveled out to Smyrna, not too far of a drive from Antioch to Smyrna to play against the Lancaster Christian Academy Knights. And Isaiah has for that game, Lancaster takes their first loss of the season against Lighthouse.
Wow.
Now this is exactly what he texted me. As their 6'5", 230-pound senior quarterback Ricky McDowell returns to fill up the backfield alongside Michael Bond.
Here's the thing, Tennessee Heat they've got some guys with some size, but they've got a lot of
Can they stop Michael Bond?
Smaller. Who Lancaster?
Yeah.
Yes, they've got some guys who are going to smack you in the mouth. I've got Lancaster picked for the win on this one. I only had them picked for one loss, and that was the Heat, and they beat the Heat. So they could go unbeaten unless they lose to Webb. But I have Lancaster picked in this one. This one's going to be a fantastic game as well.
That'll be a really close one out in Smyrna.
And
so next,
it's a battle of another battle of I-24, Smyrna and Antioch, right there next to each other. Big rivalries in high school football. So hyped for that one.
That'll be a big game for him. We already covered Sacred Heart. Sacred Heart and Heat, and Christian Community travels down to Franklin to face off for a rematch of the semi-playoff against the Franklin Christian Academy Falcons. I think it's fair to say because of the amount of seniors that FCA lost, that it's not going to be the same close game that we saw in the playoffs. And according to Isaiah says Christian Community is going to force the mercy rule in the third quarter against FCA.
I think they go second quarter. I think that might be the more controversial prediction when they force the mercy rule. Nah, this is a rematch of school names, but not of teams. CCS picks up the win.
Just easy.
And they're gonna and John Buchanan is gonna hit, he's done well this year. There's been some games he's been held on. I'm gonna make a prediction. John Buchanan does not score in this game.
Not once.
Not once.
Well, that's a
I
bold
love
prediction.
John Buchanan, but he's not going to score in this game.
That's a bold prediction. You're having a lot of faith in the Christian Community defensive
That should have
line.
been on Skip the Sensitivity.
It probably should have been. But both of you guys got Christian Community winning that one. Riverside hosts the Webb School for another one of their South games, and Webb shuts out Riverside and Fayetteville is what Isaiah is predicting. He thinks it's going to be a shutout in Fayetteville.
I did not think Webb was going to do well this year, and I thought Riverside would actually be pretty, not average, but I thought they would hold their own. So I've actually got Riverside picked for the win for this one. I think Webb coming out of their 11-man game, they're going to be beat up. They're not going to be able to rebound as well, and I think Riverside, again, another home game for the Knights. I think they're going to be just irked enough to where they want to come out. And Riverside, Webb's big thing is they've got a lot of flashy offense. They've got a lot of a big passing attack. Classical couldn't hang with them. Lancaster didn't have that. They had a running attack, which Riverside couldn't handle. But Classical tried to throw the ball several times, and they were able to run some touchdowns in. But in terms of a passing attack, Michael Black, Crutcher Rizell, those guys are going to be back there patrolling, and I've got Riverside picking up the win.
Yeah, so you guys you're only going with your preseason predictions on that.
I do believe in Riverside, though. I think Riverside could pick up the win. I always believe every week that someone could pick up the win. I love Riverside, though. Their young guys are playing at a next level, and I think they could pull it off.
And Franklin Classical is on their bye week. They have another bye week in week 11 of the season, but they take a rest after their game against Christian Community. And the only other game we have to cover is Tennessee School for the Deaf.
Boys.
They're hosting the South Carolina School for the Deaf and Blind. Isaiah did not give me a prediction for that one. I'll see if I can get one from him on that, but I'm sure you got yours.
Mr. Jonathan Thompson from Tennessee 8-Man Update did not believe in the Vikings. He picked them to lose, and I picked them to win. And again, I believe in the Vikings. I got them picked to win again. I got them picked to go 4-3. But I've got them picked to win again.
Got it. Isaiah's saying they're going to go 2-0 with a big win over South Carolina School for the Deaf. So
I'm glad he finally hopped on that. Well, he picked them last week, but not with as much conviction as I did. So,
sheesh. He says Isaiah's saying it's going to be a phenomenal rushing attack for the Tennessee School.
You saw
for
those
the Deaf.
numbers earlier. They were crazy.
All right. Well, it's time for us to reveal the games we will be broadcasting this week. And I don't have the guys in studio to do a drum roll, so he's going to try it. And we have 2 games this week. We will be live from Smyrna again. The Lancaster Christian Academy Knights hosting the Lighthouse Christian School Lions. We'll be live there on Friday night. Me, Isaiah, and Isaiah will be on call with Wayne operating sound. And Saturday, I believe we should have our
Might not
sound
be
guy
either
there.
Isaiah or yours truly.
Yeah, well, we don't know yet. We're trying to. It may be James going down. Who knows? We may
I might
take
want to
another
make the
one.
trip to Swanee.
Yeah, they don't. But the only problem is that the gas station in Swanee, they don't have moon pies and RC Cola.
That's Webb. That's Bell Buckle.
No, you told me a story about you were at Swanee. You went to a gas station and they said they don't have moon pies. You're like, what kind of place in Swanee, Tennessee doesn't have
That's
moon
true.
pie?
But then again, it's Swanee, Tennessee. So
They're still the South.
love you, Swanee.
Yeah, we love them. They just don't have moon pies or one of
But
their
Bell
gas
Buckle's
stations.
known for them.
Yeah, well, the Moon Pie Festival. But what I'm saying is, in the South, if you don't have moon pies, there's a problem.
True that.
Yeah, but it was just the one gas
They
station
had moon
there.
pies in Mount Airy.
Where's Mount Airy?
That's what Mayberry was based off of.
Oh, mate. Oh,
Got to
you're
do that
talking
last
about
week. Actually, right before we did the show, like 2 hours before we did the show, we went through Mount Airy, where Mayberry is based off of, where Andy Griffith was from, and that was a huge part of my childhood. So, got to roll through there. That was pretty cool.
Oh,
And
yeah.
moon pies. They had Krispy Kreme flavored jelly beans.
Yeah, I saw
Ooh,
your Instagram picture on there. Yeah, yeah. My 4th grade teacher really loved Andy Griffith and kept playing it for us
I
every
love
single
Andy
day.
Griffith.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Also have older parents, so.
Jeez, but yeah, we will be live from Smyrna, the Lighthouse Christian School Lions, being hosted by the Lancaster Christian Academy Knights, as the Knights try to stay undefeated on their season, playing an interdivision game. And then Saturday, we'll be live for Bowling Green Christian Academy, hosted by St. Andrew Swanee, the Mountain Lions, clashing with the Warriors. So we got a doubleheader this weekend. It's going to be fantastic.
Make sure you watch it.
Oh, yeah, watch both of them. That'll end Extreme Radio this week, presented by GracePointe Healthcare. Go to GracePointeHealthcare.com, request your appointment online, mention you're from 8 Man Extreme, and get $20 off your new patient office visit fee.
Shameless plug. Go check out Extreme Talk. New episode just dropped Thursday night. Had a great conversation with Peter Coleman. And I actually gave grades for all 12 MTAC teams. And after Friday night, I feel pretty confident about it. So go check it out.
Yeah, he showed me the paper that he put all the gradings on. He did like in crayon or in marker.
It's a marker.
He did it in
You
marker.
grab what you can and you just jot it down.
Just jots down all the stuff there. Hey, that's why I got computer notes, man. I got a notepad
fine.
right up here.
That's fine.
I
don't.
It's fine. Yeah, should do that. But
Oh,
that'll end this week's edition of Extreme Radio. We'll see you guys Friday night for Lighthouse at Lancaster, for James Shannon and all the rest of the people who make 8 Man Extreme successful. Thank you for tuning in this week. We'll see you in Smyrna.
See ya!